Every great story begins with a long wait and a silent prayer. As the pages of the Gospel open, our first stop is the magnificent and mystical temple in Jerusalem. In those days, when King Herod ruled over Judea, a time both dark and grand, there lived an elderly priest named Zechariah. Zechariah and his wife, Elizabeth, had spent their entire lives walking uprightly before God, observing all His commands blamelessly. Yet they carried a deep ache in their hearts that only grew with the passing years. They had no children. In that era, being childless was a source of great sorrow and perceived shame. Moreover, they were both now well advanced in years. For them, the hope of a miracle seemed to have long vanished into the dusty pages of time. One day, while Zechariah's division was on duty at the temple, a stroke of providence or a piece of a divine plan unfolded. The lot was cast, and the most sacred task fell to Zechariah. He was to enter the inner sanctuary of the Lord's temple to burn incense. Zechariah stepped into that room through rays of dim light and swirling specks of dust. Inside, as the smoke rose, a multitude of people prayed in deep silence in the courtyards outside. Zechariah was all alone by the golden altar of incense, until that very moment. Suddenly, to the right of the altar, an angel appeared, so radiant that his glory overwhelmed the candlelight in the room. Zechariah's knees grew weak, and his heart began to pound against his chest with fear. But this formidable being was Gabriel, one of the highest messengers of God. The angel spoke in a resounding yet comforting voice. "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayers, offered for so many years, have been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall call his name John. He will be a joy and delight to you and many others." Zechariah was shaken by this news. His logic tried to resist the miracle his heart felt. He looked at the angel with doubt and asked, "How can I be sure of this? For I am an old man and my wife is well along in years." This question was, in essence, an objection to the impossible. Gabriel answered with an authority that commanded the room. "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and to tell you this good news. But because you did not believe my words, you will be silent and unable to speak until the day these things happen." When Zechariah emerged from the temple, the waiting crowd immediately noticed the holy terror and change upon his face. He tried to speak. He opened his mouth, but not a single sound came out. He could only make signs to them. Zechariah was now a prisoner of silence, but he was also the bearer of the world's greatest secret. Zechariah returned home, and shortly after, the impossible happened. Elderly Elizabeth became pregnant. For months she remained in seclusion, nursing the miracle God had bestowed upon her, watching it grow within her heart. Finally, the expected day arrived, and she gave birth to a son. On the 8th day, according to tradition, the child was to be named. Neighbors and relatives wanted to name him after his father, but Elizabeth said firmly, "No, his name shall be John." Everyone was puzzled, saying, "There is no one in your family with that name. Why choose this?" They turned to the father for the answer. Zechariah, whose tongue was still tied, asked for a writing tablet with trembling hands. Under the curious gaze of everyone, he wrote with conviction, "His name is John." As the stylus left the tablet, a wave of divine energy seemed to sweep through the room, turning the neighbors' confusion into a collective gasp of wonder. Zechariah's voice, silent for so long, didn't just return. It erupted with a heavenly authority that shook the very foundations of the house. He spoke of things yet to come, describing a world where the rising sun of God's mercy would finally chase away the shadows of death. The neighbors carried this story throughout the hill country of Judea, realized that this boy was not just a son, but a herald, a bridge between a long-suffering past and a glorious future. At that moment, the final link of the miracle was completed. Zechariah's mouth, which had been closed for months, was opened, his tongue was loosed, and with his first words, he began to praise God. Filled with the Holy Spirit, the elderly priest suddenly prophesied, crying out, "And you, child, will be called a prophet of the Most High. You will go on before the Lord to prepare the way for Him." This baby was John the Baptist, the owner of that famous voice that would rise from the desert years later, signaling that the long-awaited King was finally at the door. The first story of the Gospel thus moved from a silent temple to the birth of a light that would illuminate the entire world. And this sacred journey was, in truth, only just beginning.